Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Polite Society podcast. We're going to get things started off here in just a second. As you can see, we've got a somewhat abbreviated version of the regular crew here today. John, Amanda, and Charlie are going to be joining me for the show today. We're going to be interviewing I cannot talk right at the moment. Eli Pagunsan. I can't even say his last name, and he told me how to say it a little bit ago. Go,
Pagunsan.
No, Pagunsan.
Pagunsan. Okay. But it's going to be he's a victim of he said red flag policy, not so much a red flag law, but we're going to be talking with him in about 10 minutes. So, you get show notes up here so we can seem somewhat smooth as we do this. Everybody on my staff, are we ready to go?
Let's do it.
Well, Charlie needs to adjust his camera down so he's got a little more Charlie and less room. Better. Good.
All right.
All right. Here we go. Kicking intro in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. We're recording this one on Monday, August the 2nd, 2021. I'm Paul Lathrop.
And I'm Amanda Suffecool, and on tonight's show, we talked to Eli Pagunsan about being tagged for a red flag.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about the Czechs adopting their own version of the Second Amendment.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll talk about how Remington is paying $33 million to 9 Sandy Hook families. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 591 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, it's Monday night. It's 6 o'clock Central Time, the only time zone that matters. So, normally I would throw to Rob and say, what have you been up to? But Rob can't be here tonight. Apparently he's recovering from an animal chewing on him a little bit. So, John, what have you been up to since the last time you've been on the air, man?
Well, it's only been a week, so we had family from out of town this past week, so I didn't get too much done. Besides work and family stuff. I have a few more blog posts out, but I'll get to those at the end of the show. Most of Saturday, I would say most of the day, I did my presentation for the Gun Rights Policy Conference. And I'm going to say that video editing takes a lot of time, especially if you're trying to condense it back down and down and down. And it'll be a new topic for me. I'm going to be talking about armed neutrality as opposed to how to use new media for the Second Amendment. So I'll pass it on to Amanda.
Wow. I have to say, I'm going to start with, I did my presentation for Gun Rights Policy Conference, and then I tagged somebody else to do my video editing because they said, how can I help? I was like, boom, here, gift, package,
Yep.
sent. So I haven't heard anything back, not even swearing, so we're good. But I've been planning for the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival in Scranton at the Tommy Gun Warehouse, which is coming up in October. So the planning has to happen now. Working on the Concealed Carry Fashion Show for the NRA annual meetings in Houston that John just reminded us off camera that is in exactly 1 month. And I have taken up walking, not running, but walking. And my husband says to me as I'm leaving the house, "Are you carrying?" You ought to. So
Smart guy.
there you go.
Are your pants on?
If she's walking, I certainly hope so.
I didn't. I did. That'll be my response the next go round, Charlie. I'll just use that.
Well, I've been up to this. My bruises from Rick Ector have healed. So glad to say that. The beating I took last week. I did Detroit Rock City as a gungram for Rick to promote his ladies event, which is in just a few weeks. I also went to upstate New York to film an episode of The Loaded Mic with Dan Wass. And I also did my GRP speech on Saturday, and I got it in at about 10 o'clock on the East Coast, which was 3 hours before that on the West Coast, so I got mine in with 5 hours of extra time.
Oh, there you go. I figured I had to do better than last year because you did so good last year. I was embarrassed at how poorly I had done compared to you.
Well, I'm going to say I was impressed with my video myself, and I'm less impressed this year.
I think this year's my best speech. This one's my best speech. I really think so. But I don't talk about Betty White at all.
So you're going to lose a couple of points for that right off the bat.
Yeah.
Paul, what's been going on with you?
Well, how do I put this? They showed mercy on me this year. I don't have a GRPC talk. Because of what's been going on with me, they said I get a pass for GRPC this year. So I didn't have to put together a video this year, thank goodness. Last year was a bit of a challenge, but so this year I didn't have. What I have been doing is I've been dedicating some time to AmCon, which comes up in about 2 months, and I've been doing a lot of time putting together some plans for what's going to be happening in the more distant than this week for the Daily Bullet. I got some plans afoot for that. I want to get back to doing some of the Armed Society show and some of the weekend shows that I've been doing, the Weekly Bullet. Trying to expand back to a full working schedule instead of just doing Polite Society and the Daily Bullet. I don't know how soon I'll be able to return to a full workload, but that is the goal, is to get back to doing everything I was doing before the stroke. And I've been working on trying to get some of that stuff planned out.
As long as you're taking care of yourself, that's what's really important.
Yep. That's kind of what's been up with me, is just trying to work on and being on my torture machine, which is a God blessedly awful recumbent stationary bicycle, which my doctor says I have to do twice a day, that I absolutely detest, but if it's going to keep me around longer, I've been doing it. So that's what's been going on with me. And in the show notes, and we should give credit to Charlie Cook's abuser, Rick Ector, here. That the ladies shooting event that Rick Ector is putting on is coming up on the 2021 event is coming up August 21st and 22nd, and you can look that up by going to the Rick's Facebook page at facebook.com/MichiganCCW. So I'm just trying to get the live feedback looked up. And wow, we've got all kinds of comments. I'd gotten so involved in talking with my co-hosts and my friends, I'd forgotten to hook up and get live commentary. Holy cow!
Look at that!
Is Rick
a lot of great comments in so far.
Is Rick on there beating me up?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I want to get a couple in here quick before we go to break. We do have to get to Eli here real quick, but Warsaw Patriot, I want to get a couple of his comments in, though. Did you guys see some women and the ACLU discuss and stated that 2A is racist and held responsible for the South for the act of slavery of black people?
No.
Yeah.
I have not seen that.
Yeah.
Did you see it, John?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he comes back.
A so-called historian named Carol Anderson.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I didn't see it, but I've heard of it. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And one final follow-up. People really need to read a U.S. history book. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, you
Preferably-
can actually just stop right at need to read because it starts there and then it goes from that.
Right. The Constitution doesn't need to be rewritten. It needs to be reread.
Exactly. And thank you, David Rosenthal. Thank you. Not only for watching, dude, but for being a sponsor. The good folks over at CNJFO. David is a big part of CNJFO. He says, you guys are fun to watch. Thanks, man. All right. We're going to go ahead and put comments away for right now. We're going to run off to our first break. When we come back, we'll be talking to our guest, Eli. Charlie, help me out. Eli.
Pagunsan.
I think it's.
Okay.
I asked him. He told me.
I think he said. I think he said Pagunsan because there's a UN in the middle. I don't know. We'll find
ask
out
him again
after the break.
We'll ask him again after the break. We'll be talking
You guys
to
keep
Eli
track of
about
who's
red
right.
flag laws. Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. This is our interview segment, and I've got to do one thing here fast. Amanda, I'm sorry, I've got 2 technical things that just dropped on me. Could I have you take it from here?
I will take it from here. Okay. So, Eli, while you were in the quiet room, we were having a big discussion on how you say your last name again because Charlie was correcting me. So could you say it the way that you say it?
So I just use Pagunsan. It doesn't really bother me. My family used to get on me for not pronouncing it Pagunsan, like like the Tagalog pronunciation of it. But Pagunsan is fine. I'm not gonna pull hairs over it. It's not gonna make me lose sleep at night, no matter what. Like it's no big deal to me. Thank you for making an F. Genuinely appreciate that.
Okay, so Charlie, I guess we're both right.
Or we're both wrong.
All that. Okay, so Eli, thanks for joining us on the Polite Society podcast. So we have you here as with a tag under your name that says you're a red flag victim. Would you like to give us the story? Give us the backstory on this.
I'm gonna kind of use the cliff notes because there's a really good article on it by Lee Williams. Big thanks to him on the truth about guns, about being 14 and red flag. But to put it simply, I was red flagged under my school district's Kids with Guns protocol, which flagged me as a potential school shooter. The emotional breakdown I had as a 14-year-old freshman in high school. The school and the Riverside County Sheriff's Office had been doing their best to prove that I would be a future school shooter using the screenwriting I had done over the years. I've been part of the Palm Springs screenwriter group. I actually went to a summer program that took place at CalArts actually for creative writing. Alongside that, they were using the video games that I played and the fact that I was in a broken family. My dad left when I was like 10 or 11.
And so they're saying those things because of what you wrote, what you play,
and what I'd been through as a child added up to me being a future school shooter under their protocol.
So based on the thought police, what does that mean?
Well, I actually am going to put it how it actually meant to me at the time. I had two deputies from the Riverside County Sheriff's Office actually search my room at the time. I had 2 officers go through my room trying to find evidence. Keep in mind, finding isn't really the right word. They were more like trying to create evidence to prove that I was going to be like a future school shooter or some kind of terrorist or some evil thing of that sort. And so they went through everything. The screenwriting I had done, I was part of the Palm Springs Screenwriter Guild since I was 12. I'd been part of the Desert Screenwriters Group since I had been 14, for about a year at that point. And they didn't like the fact that I was researching guns and watching and doing reading, because at the time I wanted to make my stories more realistic. I wanted them to have as grounded of a scenario as possible for a 14-year-old. Does that answer the question? I'm sorry.
No, it really does. So then what happens? So they come in, they search your room. If your dad's gone, your mom's there. So what's her thought on this whole mess?
So for a while I did blame my mom for it, but at the same time I started to understand that she was actually, she'd lived under the Ferdinand Marcos regime. It was a completely different set of rules. It was a dictatorship, and she was playing off those rules. You don't just say no to the police in the 80s in the Philippines. They'll literally shoot you in the head for being a communist. At least that was their thoughts on the matter. And where I'm going with this is she let the cops in thinking, my kid's just some normal kid. They won't find anything. What she didn't think of was that they'd be looking for evidence to pin on me to prove that I was this crazy psychopath killer. One of the biggest memories I have is one of the cops pulled out this sheet. Top of the list thing literally read character list, and the cop comes over and he says, "Is this your kill list? Is this the list that you're going to use to kill people?" All of the names on it were fictitious.
So you had a story, basically, a fictitious story you'd written with a lot of characters, and obviously in fiction, anybody that has read, a lot of genres of fiction, there are people that die in fiction, and you kill off. Any author kills off characters, and they think you're going to translate that to real life.
Keep in mind, my mom at the time, and you're going to get a kick out of this. My mom still is anti-gun as all get out. The first thing they asked was, do you have any firearms in the house? And my mom says, "No, I don't really believe in guns." And that's, I've gone down that road. I can't convince her. They were looking for guns. They were looking for a reason. It wasn't even like probable cause that I had learned in the past. It was literally, let's find evidence to pin on this dude to put him out as the next Eric and Dylan Klebold of Columbine, or Seong Hui Cho, the guy who shot up Virginia Tech. They were trying to put that together, and I'm getting ahead of the story, but the biggest part of that really got to me was, people are scared, and they have a right to be, from the vice principal. We just had this big mass shooting in Washington State. Don't you think, people are going to think about, don't you think that that emotional breakdown will make people think of that? Keep in mind, I had this emotional breakdown. I'm sorry if I'm droning on. I was getting bullied every single day because I was Asian in a predominantly Hispanic school. I was stressed out over just school in general, and then it just kind of bubbled up. Mixed that in with child abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, and literally severe social anxiety, and you do have someone that will have an emotional breakdown. I'm sorry to say.
So the police come in and they're looking for firearms, and I'm guessing you're 16. You're
14.
14. You're
14.
in California. You're
Yes,
in
sir.
Mom's house. I'm guessing there weren't any because your mom is anti-gun. Am I correct there?
No, that's absolutely correct. That
Okay.
is true. That is correct.
And so,
So then, what did they do? Did they report back to the school?
So
did
they
the
reported-
schools? The
Oh, I'm
school
sorry.
start
Go
with it?
on.
I mean, did it start with the school to the police? Who was the first
started-
person who kind of tagged this?
It started off as the school. The school passed it on, from what I can gather, to the SRO. I did email Paul the Kids with Guns protocol that I was actually flagged under. There's 2 PDFs, but it's been updated since, and now it's called the STAR protocol, which is the Student Threat and Response. But to answer your question, it went from the school to the SRO to the SRO to the Riverside County Sheriff's Office to the police station that was out there, which dispatched 2 officers my way.
Okay.
And if I may, this isn't really where it all ended. You'd think that, the cops didn't find anything, that's it. I had a disciplinary hearing, and that's where I was saying I'm jumping ahead of the story. I had a disciplinary hearing with the vice principal and the school disciplinarian. Now, I'm going to preface all of this by saying, at the time, Halo ODST, Modern Warfare, and Red Dead, there's a whole list of games, had been the most popular at the time. Now, I get sat down with them, and they start asking me catch-22 questions. How many friends do you have? What I didn't know is that they interviewed all of my friends. They interviewed all of my friends who were under the age of 18. They had notes on everything about me. And so the first question they ask is, Eli, how many friends do you have? And, I'm like, I got a few, but, I'm just as many as anyone else. I'm not really a popular kid, but I got friends. I'm not that, outcasted.
So did
I didn't realize,
did it alienate your friends for them to have to talk to the police? Did then they look at you with the side eye?
A few of them did.
Sure.
A few of them did, and that genuinely still kind of hurts me to think about to this day. And if I had known that this would have happened, I wouldn't have gotten involved with them to begin with. A few of them have been really nice and stuck around, and I genuinely appreciate those folks. But they did that, and what I didn't know at the time was that they were checking off what basically was a glorified checklist. They basically had a list of quote-unquote high-risk indicators or red flag, or they even say in here in the Kids with Guns protocol, red flags. And I'm going to quote this. It literally says, may not have ever been arrested or been to juvenile court for a law violation. Would they prefer that I be dealing drugs? And yeah, it's
the thought police. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, I don't see where they're going, but the whole world says they should have. Why can't they find them before they do something? And that's the big Second Amendment battle is how do you find somebody who is going to commit a crime before they commit a crime, but because they haven't committed a crime, how do you pick them out from somebody who just has different friends or odd characteristics or looks like my radio partner Rob, who knows?
It sounds to me. No, go ahead.
No, I don't want to cut you off. And so the reason I made that preface a second ago, it's pretty important. So the next question they asked me, what do you do in your downtime? I was a library kid. I volunteered in the library at one point. I spent a lot of time reading. And I thought that would look good on me. No, they made that sound like I was an introverted outcast. And then, they asked me, what kind of games do you play? And my mom and I have this same look. We exchanged this same look of, I cannot be honest. This is the point where I realized these aren't I want to get to know you questions that will make me look good. No matter what I say, it's going to look bad. It's guilty before proven innocent, which this country was never, based off of. For standing on my soapbox there.
It's the loaded question of, have you stopped beating your wife? And you can't say yes because that says you did beat her, or you can't say no because that means you're still beating her.
They ask me what kind of games do I play, and I go, and I think about what I'm going to say because I realize I can't say no because that would be lying. But if I say yes, they're going to start trying to figure out. So I say, I play RPGs, tabletop, 40K, Dungeons and Dragons. And they go, RPGs, and I just remember I watched their ears perk up and they lean forward in their chairs. And I'm like, role-playing games. And I thought this would be a good thing, right? He gets his thoughts out in fantasy. They go, so you like it? So you like getting lost in fantasy, right? Is the real world too hard for you? I should mention, right? There is no winning.
I was just going to say that there's nothing you can do to make them, to appease them and say, well, I don't have any friends, or I don't have a lot of friends, but I spend time at the library. Well, because you're an introvert. Well, I play the same video games that all of my friends are playing and all of the other people my age are playing. So you're having fantasies about mass shootings and first player or first player whatever shooter
first shooter.
Thank you. You're having. I'm frustrated for you.
No, I get it.
And at the time, and I'm gonna go a little bit into my own childhood. Is I had a really abusive childhood growing up. My dad literally used to strip me naked and beat the crap out of me. I'm sorry if I'm swearing. I shouldn't say that, but it's true. There's no nice way of putting it. He did it because he was angry at me, and he basically projected all of the worst things about him onto his kids. It didn't turn out that way, so I guess I'm winning.
There you go. So how did it end up? What happened?
Well, it didn't go anywhere, and I'm happy for that. But at the same time, I had so many. I felt alienated from everybody else because, as it turns out, the kids of a lot of these cops would spread rumors about me. Get away from Eli. He got investigated for being a future school shooter. You don't want to hang around that guy. They'd talk about me over the dinner table, and a few of them that were nice enough were like, "Hey man, my dad talks really bad about you, but you seem like a nice enough dude." Mm-hmm. And I thought after high school, this would all be over. I thought, thank God I'm in a continuation school. This is all behind me. I get a job at a dealership, and everyone there recognizes me for my investigation, and they think I'm the one most likely to shoot up work. So I had to move.
Wow.
Eli, we're coming up on the bottom of the hour here, man. I've seen that you did something with Dan Was. You mentioned that you've done some things with others. If somebody wants to find out more about your situation, where else can they go to look up the information, man?
I have a Twitter that's literally just my first and last name in one word. My Instagram is Donnie the Writer Guy. I don't actually touch my Instagram, and I don't even touch my Twitter all that much, but I am active on it. So if I get a DM or even a tweet in that direction, I'm more than happy to answer any questions related to that.
Okay.
Other than that, yeah.
That's good.
Thank you for having me again.
So Lee just wrote an article about you. Where was it published?
The Truth About Guns, AmmoLand, and he has a subset.
Okay.
Substack. Okay.
Substack. Lee's,
subset or okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
My bad.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story, Eli.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, folks, we're going to step aside to break. We're going to hear from CNJFO. We'll be right back with the news right after this.
New Jersey is a civil rights wasteland where an unconstitutional law known as justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights and the Heller decision. New Jersey politics are an anti-civil rights bulldozer, and a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt nonprofit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render aid to other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation. CNJFO is a beacon of freedom behind the Iron Curtain in New Jersey. Join CNJFO's strong, enthusiastic patriots. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedom to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, go to cnjfo.com.
All right, we are back. This is the news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Speaking of CNJFO, make sure you tune in next Monday night when Teresa Einacker of CNJFO is going to be our guest. And we'll be talking about what the CNJFO has been up to and some of the court cases they're involved with. I'm really looking forward to talking to Teresa next week. News, let me get this thing before we get to news, because where did I set it? There it is. We got a comment in from none other than the Rhonda Azell. Hey guys, just checking in there. She says, looking good, Paul. Thank you. I've got the camera position just right, so you can't see the big ugly scar going down the left side of my neck. But well, we're making it work where we can. So
I'm sure he edited that post just so he could say he looked good, but I'm not saying that.
No. Anyway, no, I cannot actually. I cannot edit comments before they go up. It would be nice.
That's his story. That's his story. So
he
in the
can't
news,
edit them, but he can pay Rhonda to send them in.
Oh, there you go. So in the news, day 39 of the Chipman Watch. No action, no progress.
You know, that it's beginning to remind me a little bit of. I took over a while back. I took over doing video production for this radio show called Eye on the Target Radio, and it was starting when I very first started producing it. It was something like day 89, still no ammo. Now it's day 39, still no motion on Chipman. Yeah, kind of the same thing there, and I expect it to be that way because we've got some awesome listeners and awesome viewers. When we say call your senators, guess what? You've been calling your senators. Keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Going along with that, the Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee are asking to reopen the hearings based upon reports of Chipman's, his racist comments.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And Stephen Gutowski's report on it, actually, where he talked to other ATF agents who needed to be nameless, because if Chipman's confirmed,
becomes their boss,
he's looking for retribution.
Right.
I mean, they might get transferred from D.C. to South Dakota or something.
Siberia, that's the same thing.
Hey.
Dude, it was 99 when we were in South Dakota.
Yeah, it was an anomaly. It's one of those states that can swing 100 degrees. It doesn't matter. It just...
Okay, now, we don't do a whole lot of swinging in South Dakota, I'm just telling you.
Okay.
So are we doing this Czech Republic story here?
Yeah. From the other room. That's what you think.
You think? Okay.
Oh my.
Peanut gallery. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move right on. So what does the Czech Republic have that American Democrats want to destroy? The Second Amendment. The I don't know. There's some letters missing.
That's the Czech language.
Right.
Huh? Yeah. So anyhow, the Czechs' Charter of Fundamental Rights is equal to our Bill of Rights. A proposed amendment codifies the right of self-defense with a weapon. 45 out of 74 would pass the amendment, and it got 54. So it needed 45, it got 54. The provision reads, the right to defend one's life or the life of another person with a weapon is guaranteed under the conditions laid down by law.
Yeah, that...
Good.
Again, this is Czech language converted to English, and so I don't know how good of a translation that is. That seems pretty vague to me. Is a weapon brass knuckles? Is a weapon a longsword? Is a weapon an M4 with the fun switch?
Maybe.
Is a weapon an A10? Is, you know...
Well, ours is pretty vague, too, when you get to that stuff, because it should be all that.
Yes.
But
it should.
it's not.
And remember, the Czech Republic has a... I was going to say, they have a big arms industry. CZ.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all know that the mind is the weapon and everything else is a tool. So maybe they're not going to outlaw brass knuckles or daggers and dirks and double-sided knives.
Exactly.
They're all
like Massachusetts.
Tools. I know. This is what I'm thinking. Going right. Let's see. What can't I have? I can't have a dirk. I can't have a dagger, a double-sided knife. I can't have one of those. I can't have brass knuckles.
Not only does the Peanut Gallery need to comment, she needs to come in from the other side. She needs to comment now, too. She says, it's like a train wreck at times, but a fun train wreck.
Well, we just all stand on the side and watch, so that's fine.
Right.
One thing I will say about... I'm sorry, Charlie, you go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say it's good to see that Europe is finally waking up to this, and even if it's one or two small countries here and there, hopefully they'll all get hip to this, and they'll become, instead of us saying we want to be more like Europe, we'll have the Europeans say they want to be more like Americans.
Yeah.
And you know what the interesting thing is? It's people that have lived under communist rule, ex-Warsaw Pact nations, people who lived under communism are the ones fighting for the right to keep and bear arms much harder than the British, the French, the Germans, the people who did not live under communist rule, because they understand what happens.
Right.
Well, British are the ones that are fighting hard to get to communism. I mean, they're the ones where good Lord, you can't buy. Not only can you not buy knives, there are cases I've read where you have to have a permit to buy chili peppers because those can be ground into pepper spray. The ridiculousness is...
My line in Massachusetts used to be, you needed a license in order to carry a spice.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't need more, thank God. We're the last state to get rid of having to have a firearms identification restricted card so you can carry pepper spray. But if you're under 18, you have to have an FID in order to carry it and have it. But good for the Europeans. Good for the Europeans. Good for these guys. Hopefully that'll start to spread.
Let's talk a little bit, because we teased it in the open. Let's talk about the Remington story. Charlie, you've got your name in front of this one.
Yeah, so the Sandy Hook saga continues. Remington has offered 9 plaintiffs representing the victims killed in the event a total of $33 million in a settlement. The suit attacked the marketing of firearms and was a violation of violation of Connecticut that prevents deceptive marketing practices. I'll be the first one to say that this is a crock of cheese. I do believe is what we call it here.
Right.
And I think before the show we were saying, John, you were saying that the insurance company is the one that's paying for this, or the insurance company's making them pay. I guess it's two different things. If the insurance company's paying for it, it still sucks and it still looks bad. But if Remington has to cough up $33 million, you're telling me what I have to do. I'm a private business. You're telling me what I have to do with my money to make you happy because somebody went and committed a crime. And that's how, is it my fault that all of this happened?
Well, I think it is being driven by the insurance companies, and Remington themselves doesn't have $33 million to pay. They're in bankruptcy, and they've basically been liquidated. Marlin went to Ruger.
Mm-hmm.
Their ammo business went to Vista Outdoor, which is federal. Palmetto State Armory got some of their stuff. Franklin Armory got some of their, like DPMS or Bushmaster. So they don't have the money, but I think this is really being driven by the insurance companies. They just want it to go away. They figure, we'll pay you $33 million, we'll save on some legal fees, and it'll be done with.
The thing is they're setting precedent, and that precedent is going to come back to bite them way more. Yeah,
it's going to bite. It's going to bite everybody.
Well, and as a good example of what's happening, within a day or two of this being announced, there was a mass casualty event in Dayton, Ohio. Guy had an AR pistol with a 100-round magazine, drum mag.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now there was a lawsuit from some ambulance chasing company, along with the Brady campaign, suing. Basically, it's KCI, which is a Korean manufacturer of magazines, and they're suing in Nevada State Court. But it was announced on the 30th. So
the interesting part about that is, did you see who they're quoting in the suit? They're quoting long dead Bill Ruger. Bill Ruger's been dead almost 20 years, and they're using his verbiage and his quotes because it's really kind of interesting. I mean, Bill Ruger, though he built all kinds of guns, was really a cowboy gun aficionado, and so the rest of it was not necessarily in his wheelhouse.
I want to get two comments in here real quick. Matt Pawlowski says, does that sit right with anyone? Why aren't any of the motor vehicle companies getting sued for all the cars used from DUIs that killed countless people? That's an absolutely on-point comment, Matt.
It really is.
It is. And Amanda, I know this is one of your hot button issues, is the PLCAA or the PCLAA?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Protection in Lawful Commerce in PLC. In Arms Act.
Yes.
PLCAA.
PLC. All right. So this is we've heard you talk about it a lot of times, of course. This is the thing. If the guns didn't function and they didn't work the way that they're supposed to, and it costs someone their life, then somebody could go after the manufacturers and sue them because the guns didn't work. The guns worked fine. It was just an evil person that got them. And we can't legislate. We can outlaw evil all we want, but people are still going to go out and do evil stuff. You know, there was, I think just in... Man, I want to say in Boston, I read a story about somebody that was stabbed 11 times recently, like over the weekend. Somebody was stabbed 11 times someplace, and we have to bring some sort of morality back to society so that people don't don't go out and commit crimes. But that's not something that we can necessarily do, and we can sit here and talk about it, but nothing's
right. I mean, murder illegal. I mean,
well, when you look at this guy killed his mother first. Mm-hmm. I mean, once you say that, there's nothing else that you can say of how you're going to stop this, because the people that are closest to you should be the people who have the most amount of your respect, and we're all raised to love our mothers. And so for you to off your mother before you do any dastardly deed is just already says everything about you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
And
I gotta know, though, for those of you guys who have looked into this, what deceptive marketing practices were they violating? What are they saying?
I think what it is, honestly, Amanda, is it's costing our attorneys. It's costing us millions to pay our attorneys to defend this. It's going to be less if we just pay millions to settle this.
Well,
Right.
I thought that they weren't allowed to sue them because of the PLCAA, so they could only sue them for this deceptive marketing practice. But nobody's outlined what is deceptive about what they marketed.
Well, I think, and bear in mind, he was not the guy who killed his mother, who shot up Sandy Hook School, was not the purchaser. It was his mother.
Right.
What they're trying to do is a deep dive into every bit of records, marketing records that Remington had, whether it was like somebody had picked up a cartoon and put it in a file, you name it, they want it. And basically that's what they're after. It was the 2010 or the 2010 NRA show when they were pushing the ACR from Bushmaster, and I'm not sure if Bushmaster had joined Freedom Group at that time, but they were saying, like, if you do, sign this and you can get your man card, and that's part of the stuff that they were after.
That's
it
that
was bad
toxic
marketing.
masculinity.
That's right.
Mike Schmidt on Facebook says railroads typically pay / settle when someone drives around properly functioning crossing gates. It's called deep pockets.
Right.
Absolutely. The insurance companies or the victims and their attorneys want to go after whoever can pay them, which is why when a law-abiding citizen gets arrested for, in my ridiculous state, for illegal possession of a firearm without a permit or whatever it is, they let the criminals go because they can't get any money from the criminals, but they will crucify a law-abiding citizen, somebody that's a taxpayer, someone that has a family and a job and a career, because that person has money that they can cough up.
Now you sound like Rob Campbell.
You just need the beard to match.
a bit.
I know, right? I do need to grow the beard out.
I'm not sure that's a compliment, Charlie. I'm just saying.
All right, let's go ahead, and we're starting to get. We've got a troublemaker over on the comments that Susan Lathrop is.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm
back.
I'm telling you,
She's back.
I think what we need to do, because we're coming up, we're right at the mark here. Let's go ahead and step aside to break. We've got a DGU segment over on the other side. We'll get to that after we hear from the folks over at Juice for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. jpfo.org.
All right, I want to get in two more comments here fast before we get into the DGUs. Matt Palowski says, marketing is just good business. Let's think about a Dodge Hellcat. What average person needs, nobody really needs one, or can handle. Very damn few can handle 1,000 horsepower. Just a thought. And then
I'm not going to say why they buy one.
Not going to talk about the Dodge Charger Hellcat. Is this the deal, Amanda?
Susan Myers says, from an article about Remington, Adam Winkler, a law professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, sorry, was that external? The plaintiffs are alleging that Remington deceptively marketed these military-style rifles knowing they would encourage violent and criminal behavior and they would get into the wrong people's hands, that their marketing encouraged people to think of themselves as using these weapons to kill human beings in an offensive manner, Winkler says. To kill human beings in an offensive manner. Is there a way to inoffensively kill human beings?
That's when you trip someone, right?
And I pulled my trigger.
I would like
to whip this out.
Yes. Excuse me while I whip this out.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
It's going downhill. I'm going to have to start talking about the Charger in just a minute.
So let's. Could you pull that back up? There was some stuff you said in there that triggered something that I wanted to bring up.
You've been triggered?
I know, hard to believe. Okay, so military style. Here's what's military style. Jeeps are military style vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Cargo pants, cargo shorts are military style pants. Camouflage is military style. For God's sakes, the Swiss Army knife that we give to Boy Scouts and want them to carry is a military style tool. It's all crap. I'm just worked up. I'm worked up. That's all. Yeah. This is all a crock of cheese.
Mm.
And it's no Gouda. We're going to have to check my toxicology report later tonight, I think.
All righty. So let me slip back over to show notes so I can say these discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Amanda, I've got your name in front of the first story.
Right. This took place in Franksville, Wisconsin. A 22-year-old man was standing at his car pumping gas at 7:30 in the morning at a busy pilot travel center in Caledonia, where he was approached and viciously executed. So this poor guy is murdered pumping gas. He then, the murderer, rummaged through the victim's pockets for his car keys. He got in the car, and for some reason, it was a stick, he got back out. So the gunman shot him, but, yeah, anyhow, he couldn't even steal his car, didn't even steal his car. The gunman then shot at another person driving through the parking lot. He missed with that shot. He next drove to a mobile station about 2 miles away, where he approached another man. This time, his victim selection was defective. You see, the man at the pump was not a civilian. He was an undercover investigator and had spent 21 years in the sheriff's department. The two, the victim and the undercover sheriff, exchanged gunfire where the good guy proved he was a better shot. The gunman was struck multiple times. He was permanently stopped from hurting anyone else. And the investigator, the police officer, was also struck in the exchange and was transported to a hospital. The first victim, our 22-year-old, never had a chance. He never saw the man approach. He didn't see it coming. The investigator, on the other hand, was situationally aware, and so he was able to see the threat and respond to the threat and fight back. When the sheriff visited with his investigator at the hospital after the shooting, he asked one question. And he said, "Sheriff, did I hit anybody innocent in that gas station?" And he was told, no, he did not.
These are going to be some shocking words to come out of my mouth. So write this down, John Petrolino and Rosie. Maybe New Jersey has it right, and they cannot pump their own gas.
Caledonia, Wisconsin is just barely, and I mean barely, south of Milwaukee. And the south side of Milwaukee is very much a lot like the south side of Chicago. Not the great...
Big bad Leroy Brown, is that what you're saying?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
You know, I think that the thing you get out of this story is the first paragraph, and that is that if you are going about your business and nobody gives you any warning, nothing, and just elects to walk up and kill you, you're dead. Because there's not a lot of anything. So in those kind of situations, if you're the second person or the third person, you stand a chance. But if you're the first person, you're just going about your business, and somebody just walking through or walking by isn't going to set off your spidey senses enough for you to defend yourself. That's why an armed person can stop a mass killing way more than they can just stop a singular killing. They can stop a singular killing from turning into a mass killing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did anybody see the video of the guy that they were trying to carjack him while it was a van pulled up, and they tried to carjack him while he was gassing up his car?
And he
pulled
turned
the
gasoline pump into
and he
a
just started
weapon.
hosing him down with
Yes.
gasoline. Yeah.
Right. I wanted to know where his lighter was, because
Yeah.
that would have been step 2.
As a former smoker, I will absolutely say that would have been epic.
So this is where having a matchbook would come in handy, because you can take the matches and flick them off the scratch stripe there, instead of having to have a lighter and get nice and close to it.
All right. We've had so many comments, and David Rosenthal wants to get a comment in directly to Charlie. Says, I pump my own gas all the time, Charlie. I have the gas station attendant trained to leave me alone. It helps the arthritis.
That's awesome. This is David Rosenthal, CNJFO.
The question is, does it help his arthritis or the pumping gas station's arthritis? Because he doesn't have to get up.
And Rhonda Zell apparently has listened to us more than once. She says, listen at your own risk. Love you guys.
She's awesome.
She is. She's famous.
David Rosenthal makes a great point. A .38 Special is a military weapon of war. It's all a scheme. Incrementally take away guns away from society, one platform at a time. And you're absolutely right. And I alluded to this earlier when I was talking about the Great Britain. They're down to steak knives, man.
Mm-hmm. And they don't even have pointy ends.
Yep.
No. And if you want to buy a plastic picnic knife, you better show your ID.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. You know, when I was new and green and all to the gun stuff, I wanted to. I also got into archery, and when I first got my gun license, I was living in a town where we had the chief of police put restrictions on people's licenses so they couldn't carry. So I wanted to get a bow and arrow, and I wanted to carry a self-defense bow and arrow, because I figured when I was at the store, if I have an arrow across my chest and a quiver on my back, people will just stay away from you.
I just can't imagine what...
You wanted to be the Dukes of Hazzard. You wanted to stick a dynamite, with the duct tape around the arrow.
Right. Like
No. Charlie wanted to wear tights, green tights, like in Sherwood Forest.
Charlie, men in tights. Oh my God.
Oh, I was just imagining what would Gun Grams be now if he was successful with the bow and arrow.
Oh my gosh.
WTrack71 over on the YouTube side said, Mr. Lathrop, how did you quit smoking, my friend? I got to tell you, that part was easy, man. When the vascular surgeon tells you if you don't quit, you won't be around very long, that's a very strong motivator. That is an extremely strong motivator.
And when that guy tells your wife that same thing, there's the reinforcement to the motivator.
Exactly. Well, hey there, buddy. Our One of our four-legged kids came in to say hi. So let's do this. Imagine that we burned up the entire. We have another DGU to go. No, do we have another one yet?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
we do.
All right, and John, you got the Sebring, Florida story.
Yes, wolves run in packs, and so do thugs. A Florida woman, was sitting in her car at 2:27 a.m. when a group of 5 men approached her car. At least one of the group was armed. They demanded she turn over her car keys, her purse, and her phone. Another of the gang got into the car on the passenger side and started rummaging through her personal items. He too demanded her important items. She wasn't giving up her car, phone, or purse, and unknown to the criminals, she was armed. She drew her handgun, and a struggle ensued with both the armed robber and the other man in her car. At some point, they backed off, but when the armed man came back at her, she fired a shot. Her aim wasn't good, but it was good enough that the pack of thugs decided they really didn't want additional holes in their bodies and fled the scene. The police were called, and a canine search ensued, but unfortunately was not successful.
Okay. Not all DGUs. I mean, we often say every round has a lawyer attached, and that is true. However, I'm still going to call this one successful because it does not appear as though the round that was fired struck anybody, period. The danger is that you fire a round and it strikes somebody that it wasn't intended to strike.
Yeah, I'd call this successful because she survived the encounter and got to go home.
Yes.
And with 5 of them against her odds without the firearm, she had 2 chances, fat and slim.
Right. And slim and slim left town.
Yeah.
As the guy that lives... go ahead.
Well, the one thing I want to say about this, lock your doors. How could the guy get in her side door if it was unlocked? If it wasn't locked? And I don't know what she was doing out at 2:27 in the morning. She may have been coming off shift or coming off a job. But lock your doors. I mean, my new truck, it locks automatically, which is kind of nice. I don't have to think about it, but lock your doors.
Amen.
Yeah, so it's something she could have done. I mean, it didn't say she did, but it didn't say she didn't. She could have carried a flashlight. So it said she was sitting in her car. Maybe, like you said, John, maybe she just got off work. And if she's, in working at a restaurant or working at a bar until 2 in the morning, then knowing full well it's going to be dark outside, it would be really a good idea. It would be a really good idea for her to have a flashlight. The other thing that I wanted to say, as a guy that lives in a neutered state, that bad guys have friends. And I say this all the time to people, that the reason you should get yourself a Glock is not because I'm pro-Glock or anti-Glock. You should get yourself a Glock if you live in occupied territory, because in Massachusetts we can have 27-year-old magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. And you buy them, if you're lucky to find one, you can buy them in occupied territory for $125. You can buy them in free America, usually in the junk bins. And bad guys have friends. So I actually had someone come up to me at my daughter's high school graduation and say, "Hey, listen, we follow you on Facebook, and I sold a couple guns so I could get a Glock and a couple high-cap mags." I'm like, "Cool, man. That's always appreciated."
In Massachusetts, for the true high-cap mags, you could be looking at mortgage territory for some of those things.
Yeah,
they're not.
Are you allowed to buy them in free America and import them into Massachusetts?
That would be negative. No, possession of a post 1994 magazine that holds more than 10 rounds is here's the added part. It's punishable by 2 years of jail, but a gun without a permit is punishable by 1 year of jail.
So, but what if you bought a pre-94, so an old mag that would have been? So you're allowed to travel. You're allowed to do a recreational vacation and just forage around the country and then haul them back to Mass.
Yeah, absolutely. I called back late about a year ago. Danny and Cheryl had something on the AZ Firearms Facebook page. They had a box of USGI magazines, 30 rounders for $10. And I sent Cheryl a message. I'm like, "Hey Cheryl, I just saw these on Facebook. Those magazines you're selling for $10, are they pre-94?" And she's like, I don't know. Talk to someone at the store. So I sent the store a Facebook message. They got back to me the next day. Like, I'm telling you, 30 seconds after they got done messaging me, I got right on the phone. I called them up. I'm like, "Hey, I just got the message about those the 30 round magazines that you're selling for $10. Are those pre-94?" And the girl says, "Yes, they are." I'm like, "Great. Can you ship them to me?" And she's like, "Where do you live?" I said, "Massachusetts." And she's like, "Can you even have those?" So I said, "Well, hold on." So I said, "You can, as long as they're made before 94. And she said, "Well, let me ask Danny, the owner." And I said, "Tell Danny they're for Charlie from Riding Shotgun with Charlie." And she's like, "Oh my God, I thought it was your name." So
it also if somebody goes through their old bin and finds one and ships it to you as well.
Yes, absolutely. I may have acquired one that way from a friend.
Taking donations.
Totally. When I was coming back from Sioux Falls, I stopped at a couple gun stores and I don't know, I think in Kansas and in Missouri, and I walked in. I'm like, "Hi, I'm from Massachusetts." I swear to God, both stores, without batting an eye, they're like, "Oh, hey, welcome to Free America." I'm like, "Thanks." And I'm like, I'm on the hunt for pre-94 high cap mags for a Glock, and they're like, "Yeah, those are junk. We don't have them." I'm like, "Yeah, they're gold where I live."
Right? Wow.
One more comment, then I think we need to jump to break. My wife trained with and now carries a Glock 43 every day. I think nationwide it should be free training for new female gun owners with their carry weapon. Just saying. I don't know, man. I don't know about free training. I think every woman should have the ability to get training. I'm really wary of giving away training for free. Because anytime you get what you pay for, and more specifically, if you put $100 down to get training, you're going to want to get $100 out of that worth of training out of it. Whereas if you can go get free training, you're going to get free out of it. There's no skin in the game. So,
I think you're right on the no skin in the game, but I think you can get quality training. If there's, I'll just say me. There are ODNR or Pittman Robertson monies available for things like that, and so the trainer can be paid and put together programs to help new gun owners to do that. So we do a thing called Women's Day on the Range, where we start from, this is a bullet, here's how a rimfire works, here's how a centerfire works, and work our way up, and to get them so that they're at least confident enough to consider a concealed carry class.
Wow.
You know, there is actually a free event that he could take his wife to.
In Michigan. You're right. Look at you.
I won't be there.
But Rick Hector will.
I will.
Yes, he will. Amanda's going to be there. And we got a lot of friends that are going to this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Susan Meyer says, Glock 43 and 42 both killed my wrist to shoot them, so no thanks. P365 every day. Susan, the problem I have with the small Glocks is I got big hands. And so they swim in my hands. It's very hard for me to hold the small Glocks stable. Even with the extended mags, they tend to really turn in my hand when I shoot. And so give me a full-size Glock anytime. The really little ones, it's not for me. For people with smaller hands, they may be it tends to be an option. But just
now, Susan, if you go to Susan's Facebook page, Susan is Willow Wisp Thin. And she carries the SIG, the P365 in an Enigma holster with clothes where you can't see that gun at all. And so it's pretty amazing watching her, and the work that she does to educate the public on how you conceal is truly appreciated.
All right, well, we have gone now almost a half an hour on a 15-minute DGU segment. So let's do this. We're going to jump aside to our final break. When we come back, we'll talk about what we've been writing about and what we've been, broadcasting about. And we'll shut the show down. We'll get to that right after this, as soon as I find the right button. And I believe this one's it.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong-house raids.
Police! Search warrant!
No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Don't Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
All right, we are back for the final segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Normally here I would go to Rob, hey man, what you been writing this week? But as I said earlier, Rob's not here this week, so John, what you been writing this week, man?
Well, Florida Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried, an anti-gunner, who's also running for governor, is playing politics with Florida's CCW permits. She has suspended the permits of 22 people who she calls insurrectionists due to being in the Capitol on January 6th. Since we don't know who they are, we don't know if they've even been charged with a crime. Moving on to David Chipman, as we said before, he has still not come up for a vote. And Jen Psaki was asked whether the nomination is going to be pulled. She had to circle around it. And finally, in NRA news, Ted Nugent has resigned from the NRA Board of Directors. He will now be the national spokesman for Hunter Nation. I have been told of another longtime board member who plans to resign. I can't mention the name yet because it's not public and I promise not to do so. I'll just say it really surprised me. That and more is at onlygunsandmoney.com.
All right. Let me, I want to get a couple of, first of all, Charlie, man, you have been busy doing the Riding Shotgun with Charlie. You've got new ones coming out every week now instead of every 2 weeks. What's been up lately? What's coming up?
So I have been putting shows out every Tuesday since the end of March. I've been blessed in that every place I go, I try to film a show, and I've been doing that quite successfully for a while. The show that I put out last week was Ben DeWalt, who's an instructor from On-Site Firearm Training, and he trains a lot of people in the Northeast, and he was really cool. He had some really good things that he said that really made me start to think about some stuff. And the show that I have coming out tomorrow is Neil Widener from Active Self-Protection, and that was a show that I filmed out in Sioux Falls at the Mag 40 class. And as I was editing the show the last few days, Neil's he's a great guy and he's a lot of fun. And I'm honored to be able to have him on the show. The show that I'm going to be putting out next week is going to have Gabby Franco in it. And Gabby Franco is on television tonight on VH1 on the Cartel Crew show with Kelly Pigeon. So that is what I have going on. Cranking out shows every week, and I love it.
So you have Gabby right now ready to go, and you already had Kelly Pigeon. So these two that are doing education, not legislation, you've had both of them, eh?
I have, which is really cool. I shared Kelly's show again today, and I said I knew her before she was more famous. And the show with Gabby, I think I spent like an hour talking with her in the car about all the stuff she went through in Venezuela and becoming an Olympic shooter and practicing. And they used to only give her 10 pellets to work with at a time, so she had to do practice a lot of dry firing and everything. So A lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff coming out. A lot of great people. A lot of great guests.
Wow.
PNW Woods over on the YouTube side says Charlie is the bestest, and bestest is totally a word.
All right. PN Woods is a teacher, so he should know.
Okay.
Okay.
Amanda, what's been going on with Eye on the Target Radio, and anything interesting coming up?
Well, this last week we had Lanny Barnes on, an Olympian, talking about the Olympics and what to expect and what to do, and so we had behind the scenes questions like, what do you eat and how do you sleep, and they flip you 12 hours and then expect you to perform at your peak performance. I mean, it's pretty crazy, some of the stuff that they expect the Olympians to do. So that was good. Next week I have a pretty amazing guest on that her name has completely escaped me, but she is a Republican running for office in Cleveland for a congressional seat that had been held by Marcia Fudge. And so the fact that she's pro-Second Amendment, she is a woman of color, and she's a Republican trying her hand in Cleveland, it's like, good for ya. Come on and let's talk. There's not a ton of people that kind of see things the way that she does, and I'm in awe. And so that's going to be that. I'm working on putting on the new show Women for Gun Rights. That is going to be a podcast and an on-demand TV show, and so I'm creeping ever technologically closer to that. So I keep sending pieces of it to people and calling favors from friends because I'm like, I can't make this work. But it's going to be fabulous when we get it going.
Very, very cool. And then I am starting, and I mean slowly starting, to do some writing again. I've got one article that came out last week that is back up on the Gun Mag, and that is that the city of goodness, and my brain just totally drew a blank. I may have to go actually look it up here.
Do you have a state? We'll guess it.
What's the topic? And maybe we'll help you with it.
Charleston, South Carolina. South Carolina this past spring passed, and it goes into effect the 15th of this month, passed, you can open carry with a permit. If you have a concealed carry permit, you can now open carry in South Carolina. It used to be you couldn't open carry at all. Hello, Florida. And the city of Charleston doesn't like that. They said, well, now if you're going to an event in Charleston, you can't. The only thing is they included protests as an event. And the way they define protests is a protest can be down to just one person. So if you are wearing a pro-gun t-shirt, you can be the protest. So if you're open carrying and you have a pro-gun t-shirt on, guess what? You could be breaking the law and you didn't even know it.
Well, just look at Paul. He's one angry person. He's the protest. All by himself, right there.
So if you see me in Charleston, South Carolina, don't walk up to me if you're open carrying, I guess is the moral of the story.
If you're going to open carry, come to North Carolina.
Or South Dakota. You don't even need a permit here.
Exactly.
I think it's on the 4473. There's a question about, have you ever renounced your citizenship? And I always chuckle because I'm like, I've never seriously renounced it. You know what I mean? Like a few times you're like, you know what? I have freaking had it, man. Like, how can I secede from the union?
Yeah, Rob says for real or just in my mind, right? I mean, that's
exactly. That is exactly the point.
All right, the comments are just screaming in. There's no way I'm going to be able to get them all in. Thank you, everybody, for all the comments, and there's some great ones that have come through. But everybody that's watching, everybody that's commented, thank you so much. We've got the best people that watch and comment. Just you all just rock. I do want to remind everybody before we shut everything down, we do have our Facebook listeners group. Just search Facebook for Polite Society Podcast Listeners, and you can catch it there. And where are we at there? Bring this. All right, let's restart that so it doesn't look funky. That does wrap up another episode of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society Podcast. I'd like to thank Eli Pagunsan, I think I said it right, for joining us today. So for Amanda, Charlie, Robin, Amy, Tracy, Susan, Rob, Dana, Gary, and John.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
Okay, before I shut the stream down, I just want to say again, everybody, thank you for watching. And Matt, get this one in here. Great job, guys. Hope you're feeling better, Paul. Matt, I have been feeling a lot better lately. I have my days, good ones, bad ones. Thank goodness for pain meds, because it said the headaches are sometimes still just killer, but with enough pain meds and Rockstar, I can get through these. But thank you guys for watching. If there weren't anybody watching, there wouldn't be any reason to do these. So you folks are helping me pull through too. Thank you for that. I am going to go ahead and shut the stream down. Come join us 5 p.m. Central Time the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday. Amanda is going to be joining me tomorrow and Thursday. So, and then Charlie's going to be joining me Wednesday.
Yeah.
So, come join us for the Daily Bolt the rest of the week. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you later this week.